So for the first two questions, it wants me to fill in the blank and figure out what the matching trig function is. So if I'm looking at sine of A, my ratio would be opposite over hypotenuse. I want to find the same ratio that would match up with this. So if I looked at B, then it would be my adjacent over my hypotenuse, which gives me my cosine angle. So sine of A is the same thing as cosine of B. Number two, I'm starting with my sine of B, so that's opposite over hypotenuse, and I want the same things to match up for A, so I have adjacent over hypotenuse, so cosine of A. Okay, number three, I am looking for a missing side length. I know two of them. It's a right triangle. This is where I want to use A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So A and B are my side lengths. C is always my hypotenuse, the longest side, the one not touching the right angle. So I have 9 squared plus 40 squared equals C squared. 9 squared is 81. 40 squared is 1600. Okay. Then I want to add both together on the calculator. I get 1681 equals C squared. I want to take the square root. On the calculator, to take the square root, I go second, and then this button, the x squared button, will give me the square root symbol. I type in 1681, and I get 41. Same thing for number 4. I'm looking for my hypotenuse. This is my A, B, and C. So I have 4 squared plus 6 squared equals x squared. 4 squared is 16. 6 squared is 36. Sixteen plus 36 is 52. Square root of 52 is 7.2. Numbers 5 and 6, I know a side and I know a angle. I want to solve for the missing side. So for my angle right here, this is my opposite and this is my hypotenuse. This would be sine, because remember our trig functions have SOHCAHTOA to help us remember what pieces go with which trig function. So I'm going to do sine of 59 equals n over 37. I want to get n alone. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 37. Then I get 37 sine 59 equals n. Then on my calculator, I want to make sure I'm in degrees. I press the mode button. This one is not in degrees. I want to move over, press enter, second mode to go back home. Then I want to type in 37 sine 59 and press enter. I get 31.7. Same thing over here, so I know my angle, I know my opposite, and I'm looking for my hypotenuse. This is sine again. I'm going to have sine 38 equals 21 over e. I want to get rid of the fraction, so I'm going to multiply both sides by e. I get e sine 38 equals 21. Then I want to get e alone. So I'm going to divide by sine 38 on both sides. So I have e equals 21 over sine 38. And I get 34.1. Okay, over here, I'm looking for my adjacent. I know my opposite. This one is going to be tangent. I have tangent of 20 equals 15 over n. So same thing as before. I want to get rid of my fraction. I'm going to multiply by n. Then I end up with n tan 20. That doesn't look right. Equals 15. And then I want to get the n by itself, so I divide out tangent 20. And I have n equals 15 over tangent 20. And I get 41.2. Okay. Number 8, I have my angle, I have my adjacent, and I have my hypotenuse. This one would be cosine. So I have cosine of 15 equals 23 over t. I want to isolate t, so I'm going to multiply both sides by t to get rid of the fraction. I get t cosine 15 equals 23. Then I want to divide both sides by cosine 15. And I get tangent, not tangent, t equals 23 divided by cosine 15. I get 23.8. Okay. Moving on the back side, I am looking for my angle. I know my hypotenuse and I know my adjacent. This one is cosine, so I have cosine of my angle equals 12 over 13. Since I'm looking for the angle, I want to use inverse trig. So I'm going to multiply by cosine inverse on both sides. I get theta all alone, and then I have cosine inverse 12 over 13. So I want to type that in the calculator. Remember, to get cosine inverse, I go second, and then cosine. 12 divided by 13 gives me 22.6. Okay, same thing over here. This is my angle I have. I have all three sides. I can pick whichever one I want to use. I'm going to use sine. So I have sine of theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. So 48 over 73. If you pick any of the other two trig functions, it should give you the same answer. And I want to multiply by sine inverse. I get theta equals sine inverse 48 over 73. And I end up with theta equals 41.1 degrees. Okay, so in number 11 it says I have the angle of depression from the top of the flagpole to the ground is 35 degrees. Then the flagpole has a shadow of 82 feet. So when it says depression, it's looking down from here, and this is my 35-degree angle. So I am going to draw this dashed triangle. So if I'm looking for the height of the pole, that's also the height of over here because it's a rectangle. Because it's a rectangle, the distance from the top of my triangle here to here is also 82. So with my reference angle, this is my opposite, this is my adjacent, so I want to use tangent. Opposite is x, adjacent is 82, and then I want to get x alone, so I want to multiply both sides by 82. And I get 57.4. This one is telling me there's a fireman's ladder against the wall, and it is making a 50-degree angle with the ground. It says the ladder is 8 feet away from the house, and I want to figure out the length of it. So this one is adjacent and hypotenuse, so cosine. I have cosine 50 equals 8 over h. I want to get I want to get rid of my fraction, so I multiply both sides by h. Then I want to divide both sides by cosine 50 to get h completely alone. And I get 12.4 feet. On this one, it tells me I am standing on a cliff, and it is 400 feet tall. I throw my book, it lands 300 feet from the base of the cliff, and I want to figure out how far away the book is right now. So that would be my diagonal distance. This one, I just want to use the Pythagorean theorem. I have 400 plus 300 squared equals c squared, because this is a, b, and c. 400 squared is 1,660,000. 300 squared is 90,000. Then I get 4 zeros. 250,000 equals c squared. I take the square root, and I get 500 equals c. On number 14, it says the tree is 12 feet tall, and it's having a 9-foot shadow. I want to figure out the angle of elevation, so that's the angle from the floor up. I have my opposite, my adjacent, so this is tangent. I have 12 over 9. Then I want to multiply by my tangent inverse. And I get theta equals tangent inverse of 12 over 9. I want to type that in the calculator. And I get theta equals 53.1 degrees.